we start with some shoulder exercises?
Oh, yeah.
I'll just talk us through a few exercises. There we go, guys. We're going to clasp your hand behind your back and to roll your shoulders open. Yeah. Right. And then careful you don't strain your neck.
If I tip off this stool.
Chin to your chest. And just draw your chin into your chest. Have a nice little stretch down the back of the neck. Well done. Take a nice deep breath in. And out. You can be noisy. Inhale. Lovely. And then just release the hands, roll the shoulders, shake the hands out.
Oh, yeah.
And we are good
Back,
to go.
Back in the room.
In the room. All right. Guys, we did it.
Are we on?
We're on.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
We did it. The end of 2 days at the Watercooler here at the Excel 2025. We've got Paula here joining us.
Hello.
With some broader opinion on how things have been here at the last 2 days. Matt, Ben, how's everyone?
How many episodes have we done of the podcast?
22?
22, I'd say. Plus a few bits on the side.
Few bits.
Well, it's a day out.
All right. How's it been?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Like I say, we're in a privileged position where we get to speak to so many different people, kind of one-on-one in the podcast booth, pick up themes as we go. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the themes were. I feel like there was a few that were maybe kind of driven by the agenda, like generational differences in AI were kind of bound to come up. But then there's some other things that have come up that have been slightly more interesting. We also went on the hunt during the event for some Wellbeing hot takes as well.
Did you get any?
Sort of. So hot takes that I can't really remember. Maybe you've got some hot takes. Got any hot takes on Wellbeing? Except put you on the spot there.
Yeah, well, I do, but I don't know. For me, I've had a couple of conversations about how people noticing how segmented things like focus on well-being, focus on diversity, etc. is, and that bigger cultural wrapper is important. But we all know that's my lens of the world anyway. But it's interesting to hear people coming saying that to me rather than me just shouting that into the void a lot.
So is that progress?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's moving. I think people are looking for that joined up solution because they know the individual streams of work aren't making the big change they want.
And that was a big theme from Health and Wellbeing at work as well. And but it was also tension. So it was like desire was there for a much bigger circle around it all, almost around everything to see it as one. But then there was always that kind of pulling it back. The hardness of doing
it's overwhelming.
The fact that it was it was like, well, that's where we'd like to be, but what can we do? And I think people were getting stuck in that tension was what I was picking up for.
Yeah.
Didn't hear so much of that this time, but it was only a couple of months ago.
Yeah. So what's the problem when it's individually focused? One of the problems is we're very driven, right?
Yeah.
Is that one of the things that happens if you don't have the bigger cultural wrapper around it? That neurodiversity takes over, that menopause takes over for a little bit, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that because you want to shine a spotlight on these really important subjects. But the risk is that then the things that the other things get lost.
Yeah. I don't think you get enough movement in the system to get the overall change, like the shift in work experience that we're all aligned about trying to create needs the whole system to move. And I think when we take that issue-based approach, even if you're making really good progress, you get a little bit of the system vibrating and moving, and it's still caught in a lot of other stuff that's stuck. So for me, it's about trying to move the whole thing forward, and you're always going to be frustrated in your progress if you're only trying to move a bit and everything else is still sitting in a place that is unhelpful. So yeah, you're trying to fight a big war on a tiny bit of ground.
I was picking up quite a lot about bottom up and top down approaches. So like, so say like with AI's sort of almost unstoppable bottom up, and it's coming out. Peter Cheese talked about the difference between that which is coming from everyone, so everyone's leaning into it, so everyone's using it. So it's organizations have got to meet and work out how they're gonna do that. Particularly process-wise, security, everything. Whereas, he was saying when other technology came in, email, for example, top down, it was, this is how we're doing it. So real difference. And then I was having some other conversations about new movements in occupational health, which are also being driven by demand bottom up. So there's obviously like Gen Z, that demand for stuff coming bottom up. So I think there's some shifts there in terms of what's influencing policy or whether that's, government policy, organisational policy, some different little things. Definitely something that was running through it. It kept coming up. Bottom up is the new top down.
But way different.
Yeah.
The AI, people don't understand it. I don't claim to properly understand it. It's like full potential. I think we're still working it out, aren't we? But organisations are scared. I don't know if organisations are scared necessarily of email. They were like, "Oh, this is great. Helps us to communicate.
Well,
We'll get off the phone." But yeah, people are just diving into AI systems, aren't they? And using them. And
it was sort of the same because they didn't know what email. They thought, "Oh yeah, efficiency, brilliant." Email. Now, email is like the scourge of work-life balance. It's the worst possible thing that anyone could spend their time looking at the weekend.
yeah,
And AI, again, some unintended consequences, isn't it? People don't really know where it's going to go. But as long as you say human-centric after it, then everyone thinks AI is okay, which is something I've really been pushing people on today and saying, well, what do you actually mean by that? What does it mean? You can't just say that as a disclaimer. It's got to be about something. Jobs is that something, It's and there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of that in the talks.
I just think it's going to replace us all. So we need to embrace it.
That's where my mind went. It's like human-centric takeover by the robot.
human-centric, as in humans can go and enjoy themselves whilst machines
The
do everything.
batteries.
Yeah.
You've seen the Matrix.
Yeah.
Let's not be so
It's a
negative.
bit dystopian.
Yeah.
Well,
Not go to a dark place.
Well, I'll be positive about something. So I've heard two brilliant examples of genuinely human-centric approaches that haven't outstrip anything to do with it. One was Miriam Warren at Yale talking about the storytelling culture that they've introduced to a globally remote workforce. No officers at all globally. And they've done this amazing thing where they've coached people to tell stories at the employee level, and it's gone all the way through to the exec level now. And it's basically a mode of communication. And then Shruti Patani talking about the sort of the bottom, again, kind of story based, but that's not how they presented it. But it was, basically like a scalable version of affordable version of occupational health that is being shared between the NHS population and SMEs. They've designed inside the NHS, and again, just quite bottom up, but also the main thing about it was it started with the issues. They had clinicians in there and NHS staff who were telling them what the problems were that needed solving with occupational health and access to it. And I was genuinely heartened by the human centricity.
Exciting. I'm also excited about the fact that someone's found a way of overlapping SMEs with the NHS.
Yeah, brilliant.
The little meeting point. No money.
Right. I was not expecting that. No, it's so true. So true.
Well, that sounds good. We'll look forward to hearing more about that. I was quite excited by my chat with Lena from BA. So her job title was interesting. It was a musculoskeletal and ergonomic specialist within BA. Her background had been with TfL and another interesting organisation in the middle. I can't remember. BT likes the British, but she is former NHS physio, moved across into the corporate workspace more as kind of doing clinical work in occupational health using her physiotherapy expertise, but that's now progressed into strategic. She still does clinic in BA, but she's just had success with launching some group strength programs and sessions with I can't remember how they define the work group, but like people and baggage handlers and ramp staff and that kind of thing. Very functional stuff, dealing directly with some of the movements that they have to do as part of their job, some of their ailments and MSK challenges that come up from their work. And that's early days, but that really felt quite it's very real and real time and very useful way of using her skills in that environment. And obviously big fan of that as a yoga teacher.
Well, do you know what? I've put that as a bit of a theme through some of the conversations that I've had inside and outside the pod, that you can't forget the fundamentals. You talk about AI and all these fancy tech and apps and all the rest of it. But if you're sat at a desk for 12 hours in a row, or if you're not eating the right things, or if you're lifting something incorrectly, these things will have a negative impact on your physical or your mental health over time.
Related to that, I've picked a lot of kind of almost like urgency and pace up in terms of like, I've heard a few people say, no more pilots, just do it.
Yeah.
Do the whole thing somewhere. Don't do a little bit of it there and a little bit of it there. We need to go with this stuff now. And picked up that in both inside organisations and some of this more kind of governmental stuff that I've been talking to Peter Cheese and Carol Black about. You know, that again, it was like there's lots of things on the cusp, but the death knell for it will be if we just turn it into a load of pilots that fritter out somewhere. We need to do it. So yeah, there's, in a way, that's good. I guess like an urge to action. And
being hot take, don't do pilots. Never do pilots.
Yeah,
do the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's about not seeking perfection, isn't it? Just impact. You know, that a willingness to be on a journey, not to use the journey word, but you know, to be moving and momentum and trusting yourself to evaluate and reprioritize as you go. I think a lot of people are just looking for the answer, aren't they, rather than some progress.
And being open to the creativity of it, maybe a little bit, because as we know, creative process is to keep iterating, don't you, and to get the thing. So, that'd be nice.
You took the human-centered and with human-centered design. Didn't just try stuff out, do it, fail, mess it up.
Yeah.
You know, try it again. Essentially, rather than trying to build the perfect thing in a dark room or in a weird little podcast booth and figure out the correct answer. It's, you know, collect the feedback, speak to people, try things out.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'd like to see a bit more of that. I don't know how you bring that to an event like this, but the risk is with events like this, you know, and something that they do really well is they'll bring it a very polished product to stage, for example. This is the strategy that we've been working on for the last 12, 18 months, you know, and this is what we've seen and this is the outcomes and all that. And that's valuable. But how do we get the early stage stuff? Would anybody come along and go, we're kind of trying to do this. We don't know what we're doing, but this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying. What do you think?
It'd be really cool if they did, like, if they were doing hackathons or whatever at these things where they were creating something, but then maybe the product of the last hackathon was brought to it as well as the finished thing. You know what I mean? Like if so, there was a role, you could see the stages of it happening.
I can see where they'd feel there was organisational risk then. Admitting they don't know all the answers. Yeah. But we don't know the answers.
Yeah. We're just human and figuring it out. Yeah. I think there's an interesting thing that I've seen around, I think, an absence still of that conversation of just getting some of the fundamentals right. I think you've made that point already in terms of, you know, sitting, standing, good food. But I also think we're still not having that conversation about just making it as easy as possible for people to do their jobs. You know, we're still talking about how do we mitigate the effects of difficult work environments, unaligned systems, lack of honest conversations. How do we keep trying to battle against that? And there's something about that revolution around how we set up work and setting it up for people to find it easy to do brilliant and difficult things, which is always missing. We don't want to lean into that. We're still trying to play around the edges, I think, in a lot of the conversations that I've had today. So yeah, that's something I think we need to keep plugging away at, really.
I mean, it's kind of what I was talking about before, in the sense that I'm guilty of this. You know, like, you want to be talking about something that sounds complex and difficult and fancy and, you know, makes you sound like you know something, but actually, you just want to simplify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simplify it.
Well, people, I have conversations with people, sales gurus. They say, you know, the most true thing they ever say is make yourself easy to buy from.
Yeah.
Make yourself the easiest possible that you can be to buy from. And it isn't sort of an equivalent there with work, isn't it? Make work as easy as possible to do. But it's not. But it's not where you start, is it? Because organisations have become so complex.
Yeah.
So then it becomes like, well, we could do that. First, we've got to unpick this.
It's making me think of one of the first professional conversations we ever had, where we were looking at the results of a Wellbeing survey, and there was loads of stuff in there, and you were helping me orientate around it, and you were like, "We just need to fix the printers." That wasn't. But, you know, it's like that's what the problem is. You know, I know. So,
in fairness, in prep for this event, my damn printer didn't work. It caused me a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
That's why you've been in a bad mood the whole time.
Yeah.
We were searching for it.
Fix this printer. Yeah.
Right.
But there's some there's an analogy in there, isn't there? If the printer's broke and you're asking people to print stuff, doesn't matter what else you do.
Broken windows.
Well, we're having this at the moment at North Bristol, because there's no parking, and there's a real kind of problem going on with the parking permits on the hospital site. And then we're doing all of these kind of interventions to kind of understand more about what people need and want, and they're like, to be honest, I just need to park. Like, you just get to work and be able to get into your clinical job on time, so you're not late for your patients.
I've definitely told you, I delivered a workshop in Uganda to a team in Uganda, and I was like, well, this would be really interesting to hear the cultural differences that you get across the globe, and parking and traffic.
It's like you went to Uganda.
Yeah, but,
Exactly.
there you go, Jenna.
They're going to share the feedback.
Yeah, then absolutely.
In your recommendations.
Station Brenner, you know.
To be fair, like maybe that does so much stress comes from these small things today. So maybe that does solve some of the problems. Let's get our printers working properly.
Right
The
then.
stuff we miss, innit?
Right then. So what's the next 12 months will look like? Where we're sitting in these same 4 awkward seats in the middle of people shutting up round us.
We're guys.
How's the conversation moved on? What's changed?
More women's health.
Nice.
More.
Okay.
I want the AI conversation to move on.
Want it to move on?
Yeah. I want to hear more AI experts talking to HR people about AI, and a fewer HR people talking to each other about AI, because they don't know anything about it.
Why not just go to the AI?
I don't know anything about it.
GPT running a session.
Yeah. Tell us about yourself.
Here's why.
Tell us the answers.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds pretty good.
Well, also, the other thing is, to that point, can AI not do something?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah,
Can
absolutely.
it, not necessarily talk to us, but could we be having a conversation about something it can do that relates to something that we do, rather than just generalizations, if you like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we look forward to the AI in theatre.
What do you think?
So for me, I think the big challenge has got to be about noticing the overwhelm and starting to respond to it. So what I'd love to be seeing is providers leaning into that rather than trying to give a quick fix that's distracting from the overwhelm, really starting to solve the problem of how do we truly understand culture and well-being in that systemic way and help people see the whole picture, but then prioritize to take some proper action. So I think we need to find ways to make it feel okay for it to be complex and work through that.
A leadership piece, though, as much as anything at the start.
It's both.
Yeah.
I think we need to give some systems and tools and frameworks on that. I think that is what helps leadership get started. So we've got to cut the confusion and the smoke and the overwhelm.
So on that point, I wonder whether the industry expanded very, very quickly. COVID put a rocket up it as well, and whether maybe there might be a little bit of a contraction, but in a good way, in the sense that it all kind of, maybe some of the noise around the edges that wasn't useful, around the maps that didn't really do anything, might start dying away a little bit, and then maybe it'll be a little more focused on the future.
Cool. Last thing then, a few keywords to sum up your couple of days here at the Watercooler, or just one word. Got it, Paula?
It's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. Good fun. Yeah.
I'm going to go hot because the podcast booth was very hot, but there were also some real hot takes in there as well. So there you go. Wow.
Ben?
Oh man, intense, but in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah, intense is going to be my word.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
It went by so quickly.
yeah.
Barely breathed.
Yeah.
I've got one which is not one word. Big picture. Big picture. So I feel like, just through total happenstance, some things that I was at 2 days running, I've come to understand some stuff that's going on in the background with the policy level, government policy, and this thing I was involved with, the Charlie Mayfield stuff, and the Keep Written Working review. I literally hardly knew anything about it 3 days ago. I've been in conversation with him, been in conversation with Dame Carol Black about it, and a bunch of employers in Cambridge. And I suddenly realised that is actually going to set, if it goes anywhere, that is going to set the agenda for a load of the stuff that's sitting behind here. And it came through in the conversations in the pod, because economic inactivity, pushing on that to get people suffering with, long-term illness or disability, getting them back into work, and the steps that are to do with the partnership between employers, the government, employees, where the insurers, market making. There's all sorts of stuff going on around here that's going to shift some of the landscape for this if it goes anywhere, and will perhaps change. We talk about what we'll be talking about. Maybe the landscape shifted. People are hopeful, and it doesn't get lost in the long grass where then maybe the landscape might have shifted a little bit, because if it doesn't, the economic inactivity piece is just going up, 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 up. And I think everyone involved, I've kind of now has realised something needs to happen somewhere, and that's why they're looking at this stuff. And that's, for me, that's quite big potentially. So I'm kind of like in a watch this space thing with that. Big picture.
Interesting one word. Yeah.
Big picture. With summary.
Big picture. Big sentence.
That really fast together.
Yeah. So just before we stop filming, we should definitely get our colleagues in. So
yeah.
Phone in, you come.
Bring it in.
Give us some thumbs up. Yeah.
Connor.
And we got Connor as well. Content magician. None of this would have been possible.
He won't have it on his badge, but he will have it on video. Content magician.
Not a second.
Nice.
Connor.
Oh,
Left him hanging.
Hey, there we go.
I feel like I'm a glory. What's that?
And then we got up, all right? 1, 2.
Oh, there we go.
that's Good.